this day. It is 5:21. This was my last and fourth last disability appointment. I'm glad for that. Lord, I look a wreck. I didn't realize on this one it was Lyme, anxiety, memory. I gotta turn that down. It's annoying me. Which I understood that. I thought we were going to go to this place to discuss my Lyme disease and the anxiety and the memory issues. I should have listened to you, Mike. Well, I did listen to you. And I backed off on a lot of the things that I think and how I feel. But the anger got the better of me. And I snapped because I didn't go. This place was a mental health facility, a place they send mental patients and keep them there. I did not know this. Even the driver didn't know where we were going. We just knew the address. I knew the doctor's name, but I did not know it was going to a mental health facility where they keep actually mentally ill people. Now that wasn't the problem either. That I'm like, it was a problem because it scared me. Because I forgot to tell you guys yesterday when I went to that appointment up in Gatlinburg, when I freaked out. And it's funny, but it's not funny, and it's when I did all those testing yesterday in Gatlinburg, right beside the testing place I had to go to yesterday in Gatlinburg for all the blood work and the tests and the walking and the see if you can stand on your tippy toes and walks and the ball of your heel and walk, one leg at a time, how if you could put your head up and hold out your hands, and I fell and all this good crap. So I didn't go into detail yesterday. And he was asking me about my guts and wanting to press on my guts. I told him no. He had me stretch out my arms and lean back, and I immediately got so vertigo, I guess that's the word, spinny, dizzy, and lightheaded, and I had to catch myself. He wouldn't help for nothing. He kept right there on his chair, and thank God there was the sink table here and the bed over here, and then see if you could stand on your tippy toes, which I could stand on my tips on my right foot, but I can't on my left, but I cannot walk that way. And I cannot stand on the balls of my feet because it puts too much pressure on my back. It's like you're ripping my back out. So I couldn't do that. And I couldn't hop on one leg. And I cannot bend all the way over and touch my toes and have my head dangling because I'm going to vomit and I'm dizzy. I mean, but outside that, before I got to him, when we turned into this medical complex and all this stuff, right beside the doctor's office I went to yesterday, it was a funeral home, but the funeral home was for cremation only. And right beside the cremation funeral home, where they cremate everybody, was the medical center I had to go to. So that was a little freaky yesterday, being in an office that's sitting right beside a crematorium that is literally a funeral place that cremates the body. So that was yesterday. Today, I did not know it was a mental health facility that actually holds mental health patients. Now, I didn't do my research. I didn't know what anxiety memory tests was supposed to do. I didn't understand. It was supposed to be including words and math and remembering. And how am I supposed to remember something you said at the beginning and then you have me try and remember it at the end because I'm so scatterbrained? I mean, asking me about my past, asking me about my son that committed suicide in 2013. I mean, asking some very deep questions, and then when he didn't understand what I meant, and I got mad. This is where I got He asked me if I had rages, and I said, yes, I do have rages sometimes, but I don't hurt nobody. I don't hurt myself either. I just burn everything I own. But he asked me about my childhood. Yes, I had low self-esteem, but I didn't, I talked to the counselor at school, and I was a kid. I mean, little kid, teenage kid. No, my parents never abused me, and yes, my ex-husband and did, but yes, I used to drink years ago and everything like that. And then he ended up asking me to repeat what he said at the beginning. I can't remember still now what it was. And I was so angry because I couldn't remember. And I was so scatterbrained because he was question after question after question. I mean, nonstop. And I could not catch up. And then he's like, who's the president? And I'm like, I laughed because I knew. And then all of a sudden I started thinking somewhere else. And he asked me about last year's president. And then he asked me what year it was, what my birthday was, what year, date, and time my son died. And it was like he was trying to upset me, and it worked. It really, really worked. Dog. Because he ended up asking me, I can't remember exactly what he asked me, but I got very, very ticked off with him, and I snapped. And he's like, well, do you think about hurting people? I'm like, no, I don't hurt people, but I'm not going to sit here and say I don't think about it. If they anger me, it just depends on my mind. And then he's like, well, explain to me what you meant about you're here, then you're there, then you're here. I'm like, well, if you'd shut up and let me explain, I will. And I'm going to explain it again on here. And this is exactly what I told him, because this is all I remember on one time. I'm standing at my kitchen sink. Next minute, I'm outside, and I don't know how I got there. Next minute, I'm somewhere else, and I don't remember how I got there. So I'm missing lapses in time, and I don't remember how I got from one place to the next to the next. And he's like, well, do you do that a lot? I'm like, well, if I do, I don't know, but I just remember bits and pieces. I said, yes. He asked me about, do I hear voices? I'm already ticked off at this time. I am no holds. I should have kept my mouth shut, people. And this little note right here, it's got a little number and a name written on it. I should have kept my mouth shut. Because I told him, I said, yes, I hear voices. I said, I don't hear voices all the time. I said, but obviously I'm talking to someone all the time. And he said, explain. I said, well, I can't explain who I'm talking to. Well, how do you know you are? Because my husband and my friends see me talking to people. I don't know who I'm talking to. I've talked to people in transportation, going to my mother's, in a car with my husband, while I'm cooking, while I'm cleaning. And all of a sudden, right there, he's like, well, you seem to be getting angry. Well, yes, you're making me explain myself what I already have. Then you're telling me I got to discuss the reason and all the complete way my son commits suicide. I wasn't there. It was in my old house, yes, but I was not there. So you're making me go back and explain how I felt when I found out my son committed suicide. And bringing up all these feelings, making me angry, making me emotional. And then in between it, will you remember the 3 words I said at the beginning and remember? I snapped again. And I'm not going to repeat what I said on here. But then I got this. In the middle of 3.5 hour session, mental evaluation session, I got handed this with a little number. He says, I'm recommending, I know this is for disability, for you to get on disability, to make sure, he says, we needed to know, disability is in my paperwork, let me know they needed to know if it was okay for me to handle my money myself, or did I need to get somebody on my account before they started sending me the money. So I immediately knew right then, okay, well, obviously I'm approved. They're just needing to find out how psychotic I am. He's like, but I'm officially recommending to the disability company that you go to a go for a weekend to a week to a psych evaluation. Now, ladies and gentlemen and boys and girls and whatever, whoever is watching my channel, and you preppers, and I told this idiot who kept confusing me and making me more and more mad, I am not being sent off for no psych evaluation. Not for one day, not for a weekend, and sure the hell not for a week to a psych ward just so they can bring up my son's death and things I can't remember, or why do I feel so depressed. And I told him, I said, I'm depressed because I can't find a doctor that will treat me who believes it in this state. I said, and you're probably one of them. I said, I spent all day yesterday riding around just to be treated like a fool. I said, now you've got me in tears, making me feel stupid when I do have an education. I did have a job until this got worse. I said, but you're making me look like I have no education. I have no manners. I don't know right from wrong. I don't know numbers, and I surely don't know how to spell. But now you want to send me for a 2-day to a week psych ward for a psych evaluation. Sign in. And I said, I'm not going. He's like, well, I'm telling the disability company that you have to go and go into a psych evaluation for 2 to 7 days. Now, I don't understand how this doctor who gave me this paper has the right to tell the disability company, yeah, she's disabled, all right, but I'm recommending she goes into a psych ward. Now, if I do go, I'm telling you, if they don't want to, nobody really knows my past and what I've been through. And the last thing any therapist or psych evaluation or psych ward or loony bin wants to do is open Michelle Martin's can of worms, because they will not let me out. And by my mouth today, that I should have shut up, I know Mike, but he pissed me off. I am being demanded through him to the disability company that I have to go to a psych ward evaluation for 2 days to a week. And until I go, I've got to call this number immediately. Cumberland West Mental Health Facility. He is making sure he calls my doctor that I see Thursday to set up the appointments where I have to go 2 to 3 times a week until I get put in to a psych ward to be evaluated up to a week or longer, especially if they open up this can of worms. So obviously I'm a nut. But you asked me how many children I had. I told you. He said, how many are passed? I said 1. And that gave him the cherry to the ice cream. And he kept picking and picking for me to discuss about my son's death. And the last thing you want to do is discuss a parent's child, have a parent discuss the death of their children or a child or your parents. That's like how your parent would feel if you passed. And I'm bawling in there, and I'm angry. I am pouring tears, but I'm bloodshot red, and all I want to do is jump across from the other side of the room that he sat me on and jump over there and throttle him. Because I came in there okay, but then you started picking and digging and digging and digging in subjects I did not want to get into. And he obviously knew a lot of things because he had paperwork on top of paperwork since I was a child of my records and my history. Because he even brought up about, see, a lot of you guys don't know this either. He knew about the wreck when I was 9 years old. It's in the health records because you guys can't tell. But this whole side of my face, at 9 years old, he knew it because he had all the medical records. A drunk driver came across while we lived in Florida and hit my mom and daddy's truck. I was sitting on my mama's lap in the passenger seat. My baby brother was in the center. My daddy was driving. The drunk driver came across the road and hit us. And if anybody's been in Florida, you know the big old pine trees. They're like this. Huge. Size of oak tree, huge. And it spun us around, and where the door, passenger door, and the front windshield connect with that bar, this whole side of my face hit it. I went through a year of therapy, learning how to walk, talk, because this was like, I hit this side and it affected this side. And my eye, I had to learn how to blink my eye, which I still can't do. I learned how to bring my mouth even. I learned how to talk, walk, you name it. I had to learn it all over again when I was 9 years old. And this man had that record. So he had all my records of everything that's ever happened to me in my life. And he wanted to discuss that. Now, that's something I barely remember. I only know what my parents told me, and I remember a picture where my face was completely black and blue and swollen severely from hitting the bar, where the windshield and the side door hit. And it hit the pine tree. So I hit the metal door where the door opens, and I hit the pine tree. I hit them both. So nobody could tell that. Nobody sees that. At 13, he had my records of when our friend fell asleep in the wheel, and we hit a concrete bridge going 90 miles an hour. You guys don't see it. I got a scar right here. Scars right here. Scars all down my legs because I'm the one that went through the windshield. I broke the windshield and went out and landed 50 feet away from it in a creek. He knew about those records. He had those records. And where I had to learn how to work my face again. He had the records where I think it was 13. I had a PE accident, bent over, caught a ball, girl ran straight into my head. I was paralyzed for 2 weeks. He had the records because I had to learn how to walk all over again. He had everything since I was little, but he only picked certain things out to nitpick. And my son was one he picked on. My self-esteem school counselor he picked on. And he just pissed me off, ladies and gentlemen. And I shouldn't have allowed him to do that. But by doing that, it's recommended now. He's going to recommend it through the state. I go to a psych ward for 2 to 7 days or longer, depending if I don't shut my mouth and be evaluated. And then I have, until I get through that, be disability mandatory. He's making sure my doctor mandatorily makes me go 2 to 3 times up here after I see her Thursday. He also don't advise that I should be taking any medicine, and I'm too young to be taking all that medication. Now, guys, that made me mad. I'm trying to think of everything he said. That really upset me. He said also I needed to be on a stronger medication than Zoloft. I also needed to be put on some anxiety medication, which I don't know. And I asked him, I'm like, well, you can't tell me I don't need to be on this medication. Are you a Lyme doctor? He's like, I'm a psychologist. I said, then you have no right telling me what I can and cannot be on or what I need and don't need. And I didn't say it like I said it to you guys. That was a PG phrase right there for you gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen. I turned full on beast mode. I should have kept my mouth shut. I walked out of his office 3.5 hours later, and I felt stupid, insignificant. I felt like a fool. And I felt, and like I remember I said this phrase. I told him, and I don't remember why I said it. But some reason I ended up saying, sometimes I feel like just find the nearest rope, tree, or cliff. He was making me, he was pushing my buttons. And he did push them. And it seemed like, listen, we have neurological alignment. It affects every part of our brain. And just one little thing is all it takes to flip that bitch switch. And he did. And for some reason, I could not stop and shut that switch off. I screwed up. And I shouldn't have allowed him to upset me. So that was my day, guys. Mandatory through disability. Psych evaluation sent off to a psych evaluation. And until then, 2-3 times a week to a mental health facility. Now listen, I don't socialize as it is. I surely am not going to sit amongst a group of people and discuss my life and my past. I'll never get out. I'm screwed on this one. I'm screwed.